Welcome to our first webinar planned for what has turned out to be quite a busy day in the news. Of course, the Jerusalem Press Club has planned a number of events addressing the pressing issues in front of us, the almost certain dissolving of the Knesset tonight and subsequent elections, as well as the latest national developments concerning the pandemic. But first, we're going to zoom out to some other issues facing our region. Naturally, those in the Middle East are waiting to see how the arrival of a new American president may impact their lives. Today, we're honored to host Iranian expat Rani Amrani, who fled the Islamic Republic at the age of 17 to Israel, but remains connected to his community. Mr. Amrani is the founder of a Farsi-language radio station, Radio Iran, and, Radio Rani.
Run.
Sorry.
Run.
There are a lot of the same letters over and over again, and is considered the go-to person in Israel for all things Iran. So thank you so much for being with us today, Rani.
Okay.
Before we get into the politics, I'm sure our guests would like to get to know you a little better. Can you tell us about your day job?
What I'm doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have something like 12 years, this radio. I opened this radio for speak to Iranians and make peace between Israelis and Iranians. When I speak to Iranians, I explain what's going really in Israel, not what they're here in the news, Iranian news. I told them what they're really in Israel. And when I speak in Israeli news, I speak about the Iranians, what the Iranians feeling, the Iran's people, not the government. And we doing everything about that to make the peace between the people is in Israel and the people in Iran. I think what I do is what's good in the years, because the government Israel now the people in Iran think something else, another thing, not what the government think about the Israel, and also the Iranian people knows that Israel not hit them. It's just politics, and what's going in the news, it's not every times is real.
Very interesting. Thank you. So regarding your audience that's actually in Iran, how many people hear your station?
Too much people in the years, because 12 years is too much times, as and Iran and Israel every time in the news, because many people is interesting what's going in Israel, really what they want to hear. Some people from Israel that talk to them, not what they hears in the Iranian news, because many people in Iran, we have something like millions enter in the site and in the application and everything what you're doing, and many people listen us. It's very interesting to Iranians. Israel is interesting to Iranian people.
And when you speak to them about things happening in Israel, are you talking more about politics, or are you talking about things that are related to Iran specifically, like maybe events perhaps that between Israel and Iran, if it was the latest assassination of the nuclear scientist, or perhaps attacks that Israel might be carrying out in Syria on Iranian soldiers or bases or something like that? Are those the kind of issues you also talk about with them?
Everything. We're talking about everything. Most important in the political Iranians, they want to know what the government not tell them, because we have a news every night, 7:30 p.m. We make news for Iranians, and we talk about the government in Iran and what they're doing there, and many things that Iranians don't know. We told them, and also about Israel, about what Israel doing in Syria. Many people Iran, they don't know anything about what Iranians doing in Syria and what Israel doing about that. This is very important to him. I'm sure when we have some news like Mohsen Fakhrizadeh and killed them, they want to know who killed them. Maybe Israel is either killed them or not. As many interesting things we have in the radio, because the Iranian people come to listen us, and it's important to him and interesting to him.
Very interesting. Okay, we have many journalists watching our conversation. Do you think that a reporter who is stationed today in Iran, whose work is in Iran, can objectively cover events given the tight scrutiny, the supervision that the Iranian government has over the press?
I don't know, I don't understand your question. If maybe
Do you believe that reporters who are based in Iran, like not somebody like you who is able to report from
reporter in
outside of
Iran,
Iran, in Iran, someone there, whether it's an Iranian or a foreign reporter in Iran, are they able to report the real news of what's going on there, or is something in the way?
I live in Iran. I know exactly what's going there. The reporters and some probably want to say they can't say what he want. The government say him and told him what he have to say, and when he want the reporter to make news, and before he make the news, he have to show them what is that, and they have to say if he can to tell the news or not. Every news in Iran is have to be have the government say if they make the news or not. The reporters in Iran not free, and many news we know in happen to Iran, and the news in Iran just anything not talk about that, and the many news about Israel is just lie. In Iran, making big lie about Israel, and in something like 42 years, they say lying about the Jewish, they say lying about Israel, many lying, and want to make heat to make the heat with the people that they want to do something. The people in Iran hate Israel, hate Jewish, and is too much. This very bad for the Jewish and living in Iran, and Jewish and living all the world, and and also in Israel, and because what's the important, what's the interesting that the people in Iran know that the people in Iran know the news in Iran not real. They know that because they want to hear the news other countries, and exactly in Israel they know what the Israel say is the real, because they many listeners.
Understood. One more question about the news and your place in it before we talk a little bit about your community, if that's okay. Have there ever been attempts by the Iranian government to block your transmissions, your broadcasting? Have you always been able to freely broadcast?
Yes, many times they attacked us. They attacked my canal Telegram, and we have Telegram in radio, and attack them, and they take the Telegram, and everybody who was there was just run away. And also the site, they attacked the site, our site, Radio Run site, and they do many things about us. And really, I afraid of go out from the Israel. When I want to go to Turkish or some place urban Dubai or Turkish, I afraid to go because maybe they can take me, and now you now hear about the Ruhollah Azam. There was Ahmad News, and they killed them just last week. And also another reporter or everybody that talks something that the government in Iran don't like, is dangerous for you. As sure we take care of that, because just not going out from the Israel, and they attacked us many times.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your community in Iran, if we can, for a few minutes. Do you think that big Israeli actions like the one we talked about before, the assassinations, or maybe even a few years ago, there was the Mossad operation to unveil the nuclear archives? Remember when Netanyahu showed all the things that they had discovered and found in the huge operation? Do things like these impact the Jewish community? Are they blamed ever? Does the community ever,
Dangerous for the Jewish? I don't understand it.
does the Jewish community in Iran ever get blamed? Are the authorities angry with them when for things that Israel might do?
The Jewish community in Iran try to not talk anything about what doing Israel because it's dangerous for them. Every Jewish in Iran, if he says something about Israel, if it's good, if it's bad, they can take us and say you are from Israel, you are come to work for Israel, and they can to go into they kill him as because the Jewish community in Iran try to not talk about Israel, and also when something like Soleimani kills as communicating Jews in Iran say they are very sorry about that because they have to do that. Jewish in Iran try to not talk anything about Israel. It's not good for him because kill them is very easy for the government.
So what is it like then to have to hide your Zionism, hide your love of Israel? What is it like? What does it do to you inside?
When the Jewish in Iran, they do anything. When I was in Iran, I not say anything about Israel. I just praying in the home and say, I pray and next years I will be in Israel, in Jerusalem. But we not talk about that with the Muslims or with the governments about that. And after when I run away for Iran, I run away in the Afghanistan, Pakistan, and after that I come to Israel. I can say free what I feel in Iran. But when I was there, I not say anything.
And what are the relations between the Jewish community and the Muslim community, like in Iran? Not the government, but the people in the neighborhood.
The people is very good. The Jewish community and the people they is good. The people in Iran, the Muslims and Jewish is friends, good friends. But before 40 years ago and just when after the revolution, we have anti-Semitism in Iran. But now is not too much anti-Semitism in Iran.
Okay, and just a technical question: how do Jews keep in touch? Those who are still in Iran and those who left after the revolution.
It's very dangerous because the Jewish in Iran, if somebody in Israel or connect to that, or if a Jewish in Iran come to Israel and come back to Iran, he have to go to jail 5 years. And any talk in anybody in Israel, you have to go to jail 5 years. And because in Jewish in Iran too much take care of that and not talking to the people in Israel.
So there are very much divided families even today.
Every Iranians, also Muslims Iranians, if come to Israel or if speak with the Israelis, is too much danger for them because if somebody with government know that, they're going to jail 5 years. I have many people that listen us and called us with the WhatsApp and speak with us. And I say, it's danger for you. They say, I know, but I have to know. I have to speak with somebody. I have to say what I'm feeling there. I have to somebody in out of the Iran tell to world what we feeling, what life is bad in Iran, and too hard to live in Iran, and the people want to say that, and not afraid of, not afraid.
Okay, thank you. Before we talk a little bit about the politics themselves, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your own journey. You mentioned you went through Afghanistan. How did you get here? I also heard that you were arrested a few times.
I just run away from Iran because when I was in Iran, also I go to because I was working in Iran also about to be freedom, and I do very things about that, and as because the government wants to take me how much times, and because I ran away from Iran when I was something like 17 years old, I just I can't go. Then the Jewish can't come out from Iran, but I have to just run away. As I ran away with the and car and walking in the going in Iran to Afghanistan, and from Afghanistan to Pakistan. I was something as 2 weeks just going, and after 2 months, I took from my family from Pakistan, took from my family in Israel, and I come to Israel, Schweiz, and after that to Israel. 2 months I was in the way, and after that I come to Israel.
It sounds like a very long and difficult journey.
A long and difficult and very dangerous way, and I have many stories about that. The next time I told it to you every story I have today.
Well, we're very glad to have you. I do have a question about what we're looking at next year, because now it's the end of December, and next year we'll have a new government in the White House in America. I wanted to understand if the Iranian community, what they believe would be the best policy, a medinut, that President Biden will have for Iran, if we think about the fact that he was also vice president under President Obama, who, if you remember, in 2009 was very restrained in his policies towards the demonstrations in Iran after the election in 2009. What does the community want from President Biden?
What the people want, or what the government want?
No, what do the people want? What do the people want?
The people the people very want the Trump, because the people believe that Trump come to change the government in Iran. And now when Biden is coming, the people just hope Biden not going with the way that Obama go, and sitting with the government and talking. The people want the change the government in Iran, as they want that Obama go what the way that the Trump go, and push the government in Iran, and they think, they hope they change the government. They want to change the government in Iran. That this is what is important for him.
But President Trump was the one that pushed the sanctions, the economic sanctions against Iran, and made the living situation for Iranians very, very difficult. So how does that work together?
No, because there's a section, and when the Trump pushing Iran, the Iran haven't money to do what he want to do. They haven't money to buy neshek, guns and everything. They haven't money to pay to the Hezbollah. Haven't money to pay to the Syria, and to the overthrow in terrorist throw in the world. And because they want what doing the Trump is good. And they say they push when the Trump they push the government. When if the government haven't money to pay the Sepaya Pastaran, as this can the Sepaya Pastaran can go away from Iran, and also that this it is more this זה יותר קל להפיל את השלטון. You know,
To bring the
easy,
regime down.
easy
Yes.
to change the government in Iran. And because they want something like Trump. And they hope that Obama, that Biden think about that and not go to the way of Obama goes.
Do you think that it's possible to create a better deal, a nuclear deal between Iran and all the other countries that participated?
The people don't want any deals. They told us that we don't want any deals. We don't want the regime. It's every people that somebody that listen us. The people that don't want the regime there, as because this is what the most of people want in Iran.
So do you think that the solution would be another election, or will the election not be a real election?
What's the election?
Bechirot.
In Iran or
in Iran?
No, the Iran election in Iran is just playing. It's just like a movie. It's not real. It's not what the people want. And it's not if election or something else, Khamenei or Rouhani, it's not change for him. It's not different for him. Same. Everybody in the government is same. They want revolution. They want the people of Iran want revolution in Iran. Want revolution. They don't want the Ayatollah. They don't want what they're going in the government in Iran and what they doing in Iran. They take the money of the people and they take for the families in the Canada and everywhere. They take the people from the Iran and pay to the Sepah Pastaran in Syria and every doing the world. The people in Iran want revolution, want change the regime, something else, regime like the really Democrat in Iran.
Will they continue to go to the streets to demonstrate to achieve this revolution? Because the last time it didn't really help. People died in the streets. They were shot in the streets. Do you think that this is helpful to continue?
I think they will doing again and again and again and again a revolution. They do it every time. They want they doing יעשו את זה עד שיקבלו חופש.
You're saying that they will continue to do this until they achieve their freedom.
Exactly.
Okay, and do you expect more intervention, מעורבות, on behalf of the international community, שהקהילה הבינלאומית תתערב יותר?
Yeah, we want that, and the people of Iran want that. Many of the government in Europe want the regime in Iran. They don't want to change the regime because they're doing business with the regime in Iran. And the people in Iran say because that the regime just continue to be, and they want to Europeans just see what the government's doing to people. That many countries in the Europe and all the world have to want to change the regime in Iran because what they doing to the people. Just the last 2 weeks, they killed Ruhollah Ezam. I know him. It was just reported. He ran away from Iran and he make Ahmad News and make big channel Telegram. It was just he have millions in Telegram. He make news and he doing very, very good. And he say what going in the regime in Iran because they going and and חטפו אותו, let's say.
They kidnapped him.
They kidnap, okay, and take him in Iran, and the next 2 weeks they kill him. What he do? He just say the truth. He just say what going to Iran. What he do? And many people is like that. Many people is like that. You know, every people just say what he want to say. They take him and kill him. I don't know how the countries in Europe can see that and not say anything. When something happened to Israel for the Palestinians, many people in the many countries say what Israel doing to the Palestinians, what Israel doing to the Palestinians. But they see last year 1,500 people killed in the street in Iran, but any country not say anything. Why is it like that? Why the people, why the countries in the Europe not say anything about the criminal or פשעים שעושים באיראן? What's
the crimes?
The crimes they do, the governments in Iran. What the governments in the Europe not say anything about that, not do anything about that. Why is it like that? Just they say about Israel, just they see it Israel in the world. They not see what the Iran what's going on in Iran.
Rani, I'm very sorry about your colleague. I want to ask a question about Israel specifically. What do you think is the most important thing that Israelis that aren't from Iran should know about the community? What should they know about Iranians in Israel? Because I don't think that people know very much.
תגיד את זה בעברית.
מה הישראלים אחרים שהם לא ילידי פרס צריכים לדעת עליכם, על מי שבא וגר פה? מה חשוב לך שידעו עליך?
It's important that they know what, מה עברנו כדי להגיע לפה, וכמה חשוב לנו גם ישראל וכמה חשוב לנו גם איראן.
So he said that it's important for him that the rest of Israelis understand their journey, what it took for them to come to Israel following the revolution in 1979 and how difficult it was, and what it's also like to be here in Israel.
Yes, they have to know, and they have to know what we're feeling about the Iranians, because every Jewish Iranian come from Iran, he love Israel, but he love also Iran. He love the people Iran, because we come from there, we live there, we born there. I say every time, Israel is like my father, but Iran is my mother. I born there, and when we see that father and mother are in heat, it's not feeling good for us.
Of course not. Rani Amrani, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. It's very difficult things to hear that you're telling us about. And of course, we all wish things will be better soon.
Thank you very much.
And to the journalists on the line, if you want the latest updates and analyses on the current pandemic situation, don't forget to join us this afternoon at 4:30 p.m. during our briefing with Professor Ran Balitzer, member of the Health Ministry's COVID-19 team and founding director of the Clalit Research Institute. A separate link will appear in your inboxes to this event. And finally, for a brief update on the vaccine rollout in Israel, make sure to visit our SoundCloud page to hear JPC's interview with Dr. Ronen Ben-Ami, head of infectious diseases at Ichilov Hospital. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you again, Rani. We hope you enjoyed that briefing by the Jerusalem Press Club. If you did, like the video and hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all of our future content.